You come to a dark crossroads. After starting down the first thoroughfare, you trigger some dialogue and decide to go back and try the other route. Regrettably, an invisible wall stops your retreat. You're locked in. Whatever hidden loot the other path held for you is lost. It's a terrible nightmare, but not an unfamiliar one. Secrets are always fun to find, but in terms of game design, they bring up some unusual problems. If a game needs to communicate which way is optional, or that the player has missed something, how can they do so without making the secret obvious? If a secret is inevitably meant to be unearthed, how does that affect the rest of the game? And what's the secret to balancing a secret's smoke and mirrors? How much indication is too much, and how much is too little? Before I get going, let's clarify what I mean by secret, because it can basically mean anything from a hidden block in Mario to an elaborate concealed ARG. For the purposes of this video, a secret is a missable and therefore optional piece of a game, especially one that conceals a power-up or a collectible. Generally, there's going to be a direct correlation between how hidden something is and how valuable/fun it is to find, so they quickly become a significant part of any game they're in. First off, how can we avoid that nightmare scenario where the player doesn't know they found a secret and ends up going down the critical path instead? Ideally, a secret should just be a nook or cranny that doesn't look like an alternate path, but I guess depending on what you're hiding, then it may just be unavoidable. At the same time, you want the player to know which way is optional while also not ruining the surprise. Unfortunately, it's not like we can just put up a sign. Some games try to help out by putting stuff on the map or by giving you a little radar, but that just makes the player feel like they're being led around, which is pretty antithetical to the satisfaction of figuring out a secret. A better way to communicate that some routes are optional is to have a set number of hidden gems per level. That way the player knows if they left something unexplored without having the mystery totally spoiled for them. If the secret is too big to tuck into a little closet off the main path, and cannot easily be communicated as an optional route without ruining the surprise, then the best way to conceal it is to put it somewhere the player doesn't want to go. Namely, somewhere difficult the player would try to avoid. Since the risk is optional, then it may actually be optimal to not engage with it at all depending on the reward. An optional difficult sequence implies a hidden prize, but if it's supposed to be a secret, then isn't that too obvious? If the satisfaction of unearthing something directly correlates with how secret it is, then shouldn't there just be as little indication as possible? There are games that have completely arbitrary hiding places which are incredibly thrilling to see discovered, but in terms of gameplay they may as well not even exist. For example, take the top secret sequel teaser for Arkham Asylum. There's a random wall in the warden's office where if you use 3 explosive charges, then you can reveal plans for the next game. On one hand, it's incredibly cool to hide such a major detail just under the player's nose, but on the other, nobody ever found it, because why would anyone actually look there, let alone triple explode it? There's nothing else in the game that works that way, and there's nothing to suggest that that spot is special. It's novel, but it's not actually a puzzle. For best results, you need something suspicious, a trail of clues to suggest that something will actually happen. Otherwise, the player won't get a eureka, they'll just stumble into it. It's okay to have a super secret mystery so long as the player is clued in. A better example might be the secret ending from The Witness. Spoilers for one of the best puzzle games in recent memory. Throughout the game, you have to solve these line puzzles on tablets that slowly give rise to perspective tricks and eventually environmental puzzles. Eventually, you learn how to spot these kinds of trials, but from minute 1 the game gives you the ability to get the secret ending if you can connect the dots. It's fun not only because it furthers the motif of perspective, since you act differently depending on when you're playing the segment, but it also works with the same rule set of the rest of the game. With that said, it's also important to keep things fresh. Yes, when Dark Souls places a secret in an elevator, it teaches the player to explore each area thoroughly, but it also can become tedious when the same idea shows up over and over. A good rule of thumb is to just use the game's non-secret puzzles as an introduction to a more difficult secret challenge. Take this example from Celeste, where if you're paying attention during the game's final DLC sequence, you'll notice an alternate route locked behind some electrical hazards. Once you complete the sequence, you can make a seemingly suicidal leap backwards and practically play the same challenge in reverse for the game's final achievo. Alright, so that covers the particulars of discovering a secret, but what good is a secret after it's been unearthed? Take the warp zone from the original Super Mario Bros. Everybody knows about it, and as a result, nobody's played World 1-3 since the 1900s. While yes, maybe way back when, it was a jaw-dropper to learn that you can skip so far ahead into the game so early on, but now that everyone knows about the warp zone, it just seems like a retro workaround for a level select and an absurdly dominant strategy that trivializes the majority of the video game. How can a secret retain that jaw-dropping sex appeal once people know about it, while also not ruining the game's balance? How can we offer the player powerful missable tools without ruining the game once they know everything? I wouldn't say that Volgarr the Viking performs its power-up system flawlessly from a mechanics standpoint, but it makes for some pretty sick secrets. In addition to its power-up chests littered throughout the level, there is a single additional secret power-up hidden Castlevania style in the walls or floor. If you manage to find it, you get a free hit and counterattack the next time you get touched. What I like about it is that it doesn't stack, so if you're playing a perfect game, then you're actually wasting the extra DPS if you don't let yourself get hit. The optimal speedrun play is to brush the baddies with double damage and the counter hits. The end result does kinda suffer from making a smart player extra strong, but the game also makes up for that with secret levels that make the game significantly harder if you grab loot at max power. To wrap it up, an optional secret should be a reward for intrepid exploration or exceptional skill against something elaborate or difficult to avoid the nightmare scenario. It should have some sort of indication to its existence outside of the actual reveal, and once the reveal is over with, it should remain interesting as if it were never a secret at all. That way the player feels like they've discovered a game changer instead of fumbling into a free pass.